Welcome to the RePsychled podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts, Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
Dr. LaFanya Jones-Hines,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is informative, down to earth, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up your volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 55, Unready.
Okay, interns, this is another good one. We're going to be talking about when are you supposed to leave a relationship?
And when should you stay?
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we leave relationships too soon. And sometimes we leave good relationships when I don't want to say shouldn't, but I guess shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. You know, it puts me in a headspace of if you leave something that actually is working, what would be the reasons behind why you would leave something behind that, you know, that whole if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're fixing something that wasn't broke.
Yeah. I definitely think fear comes to play and self-sabotage.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of times when people are in a relationship and they leave it, I guess, too soon or leave a good relationship, they have that fear of commitment. People don't know the difference between commitment and entrapment.
Mm-hmm.
And so when
they're very different.
It vary. And so a lot of times when you are dating someone who fears commitment, they feel trapped.
Yeah. And I think it's because people don't take the time to conceptualize what they want in relationships. Like, you don't have to have Susie Homemaker's version of a relationship. You can have something completely different.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the things that I was just thinking, like, okay, so what is the definition of a good relationship? You know, of course, there's going to be individual, you know, wants and needs. But if you gave like the most basic generic version of, you know, a definition, what would be included in, you know, quote unquote, good relationship?
I would say that your personalities match.
Mm-hmm.
And even if y'all like different things, you still on the foundation of your relationship, your personalities match.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have those standards, which is your basic needs are being met. And by that, I mean like the bare minimum. Like, that's where everybody in your life should operate, is at the bare minimum. And then also what we've discussed in past sessions is the rules of engagement. What do you need from that person in order for y'all to sync?
And how does the other person make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And what is being brought out of you, and what do you bring out of that other person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another kind of foundational thing that I was thinking is, you know, effective communication skills. And that includes listening, you know, active listening, being able to reflect back to your partner, what you're saying, or, you know, what you're hearing.
Now, you done said something too complicated. You know, people don't communicate well. What are you saying?
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about. Like, what goes into like a good relationship, you know, versus y'all just have fun together. That kind of stuff, you know?
So what I hear you saying is effective communication is key to a long-lasting and healthy relationship.
Absolutely. You know, knowing whether or not you're a high context communicator and your partner is a low context.
Yeah.
You know, if you both have differences in how you receive and send information, you're going to kind of already be starting off on some shaky ground.
And don't forget processing speed, because I know it sounds like we're talking about computers, but we're talking about humans.
Yes. And I think one of the things about the processing speed is that you have to know your partner's speed.
Yes.
You have to know, because sometimes people get frustrated at their partner because they think they're not listening, or you're not paying attention to what I'm telling you. No. They just haven't processed what you just said yet.
And everybody's different. It's not like everybody's going to be a quick processor. I know me, myself, I'm a quick processor. And so that means my friends, my family, when I'm in relationship with significant others, I have to be like, okay, get him time. Why I need my answer immediately?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so entitled that I need to have my answer right now.
Yeah.
No.
A lot of people think that, but I see where
Especially
you're going.
when it's in an argument. Why are you not responding? I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows you that not that relationship, but that communication is not about resolution. It's about proving a point.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if I had to have like another kind of foundational piece, I would say self-awareness, self-reflection would be a part of a healthy / good relationship. You know, because if you're not self-assessing, then how do you know where to improve? You know, it can't always be your partner pointing out things about you, because that'll breed a whole another level of stuff.
Yeah, because it's self-aware. A part of self-awareness is you understanding how you're affecting other people around you. And I think people forget about that part of self-awareness. You have to understand what your motives are behind what you're doing and how it's affecting someone.
Yeah. It's always mind-boggling to me that people who choose to enter into relationships don't feel like their partner is going to be affected by what they're doing and saying.
I know.
Like, then why you with the person if you have no impact on them whatsoever?
Right.
You don't get to do whatever you want to do all the time, just like that other person don't get to do whatever they want to do. Because a lot of times people want to haul off and smack their partner, but we don't do that. You know, we don't do that.
Yeah, that's true.
We would like for you not to.
Unless it's consensual.
That's a whole nother story.
You got a chamber room.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But can y'all think of anything else that would kind of fall under that umbrella of healthy / good? And I hate saying good because that's kind of a value statement.
Yeah.
But
non-toxic.
yeah, there we go.
I think anything else that I would come up with would kind of be more so like specifics.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And I think that is going to be dependent on the person.
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to keep it like more general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Like in general, again, foundational. If we were going to kind of go with that hierarchy of needs thing, what would be at the base? You know, without this.
And I would also say something healthy would be for both of you to have some sort of drive and or goals of how you're gonna survive financially. And I'm not saying that people have to make 6 figures and things like that, but money makes the world go round. So how you're going to survive with each other financially.
Okay. So this would be if you are living with this person and, you know, combining. Okay. I can see that.
I would even say living apart, because how you going to date me if you don't have no money? Like, what we going to, I mean, we can go to the park. We can do some free stuff. I ain't saying everything got to cost money.
Right.
But
at some point,
yeah,
something will.
Yeah.
I think a bigger umbrella on top of that is really just the goal and development of the relationship. You need to know where you're going and if y'all are in agreement with where it's going. Because, I mean, recently I saw something on the TikToks that this guy proposed and the girl was like, nah. It was mad disrespectful too. Nah. And walked off. Like, he started crying stuff, and I was just like, okay. I mean, ma'am, you could have just said, no, I don't want to get married, or no, I'm not ready, and y'all can still be a couple if that's okay. But, you know, the disrespect.
Yeah. Wow. That made my heart hurt.
I know.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody don't want to marry.
That's true.
You know, so I'm cool with that. But I think also y'all had to have been having some type of conversations about next steps so that you know where to go. Of course, he could have completely read her wrong too.
That's true. And that's the thing. I think when people are in relationships, you definitely need to communicate about what you want, what your end goal is. Because if y'all are on 2 different pages, y'all need to be honest about that. If you know you're a person that's not looking to end something, whatever it may be in marriage, then express that so that the other person can know how to maneuver.
Yeah.
Which I think that goes back to kind of when I was thinking about listening, that most people, when they say communication, they just think about the verbal, you know, the vocal piece of communication. but there's so much that's wrapped up in how we interact and deal with another person.
Yeah.
You know, your tone, your facial expressions, your body language. It's more than just the content of the words that you're saying. So, you know, if you and your partner have been having these discussions about marriage, but you're not paying attention to, you know, she's rolling her eyes when you say it, or she's in her phone, or she's huffing and puffing, and you're not addressing those behaviors when you see them.
And I think when you are involved in a relationship, you definitely have to pay attention to the energy. Because like you were saying, like the body language or the verbal can be like, yeah, you know, one day I do want to marry you or whatever. But like if I'm texting on the phone, or you don't feel like you're connecting with that person, then she can be saying that, but that may not be what it is.
Yeah.
So then that follows up with, you know, we were talking about if you would why would you leave something that was going well or going good? And one of the things that you said, self-sabotage and kind of fears of commitment, it kind of makes me maybe think about poking holes in that of, well, was it really good then? You know, or is it because of that self-awareness and because of that, you know, reflection that even though it is going well, I know that I'm not ready or prepared to go all the way with this, or something along those lines?
I would say that it could still be good. It's just that the one person is not ready.
Or it could also be that that's just not your person. Like I said in last session, people don't have to be the spawn of Satan for you not to be with them. Like you can be like, man, you are like a phenomenal person, but the romantic connection is not where I want it to be for a relationship. It doesn't mean that anything is wrong. It's just like this is a compatibility situation, and it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, this doesn't go like this. Or no, it's just like we don't completely sync the way I want us to completely sync, and that doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make me bad. It means that you're just not my person, and I think we are not conditioned or have an understanding of we are not to be owned by our partners, and we are not to own them. And they have free will just like we do. And so a lot of people, you know, use the phrase, you know, I'm dating to marry. Okay, but can you get to know me so you can figure out if you actually want to marry me? Because sometimes it's like, ooh, this person look good. Ooh, they got this. Ooh, they got that. Ooh, they got that. But then it's just like, okay, but that's still not the spirit you want to be tied to.
Yeah.
This makes me think about, I cannot remember what session it is, and we'll put it in the the tribe, building a tribe. This makes me think about that. You know, how you can categorize your friendships. You know, are you placing people in the right level of friendship? Are you overvaluing your place in their life? I get the same kind of sentiment with that on when it comes to romantic partnerships. If you're not assessing yourself and this person well enough, because you've placed them in some category that they don't necessarily belong in, even if things between the two of you are, you know, you don't argue, you know, you're not arguing well, let me not say not arguing, because even healthy relationships, people argue, but you're not tearing each other down. You know, you're not doing all of the very unhealthy parts of human interaction. But like you said, like this person probably really needed to just be my confidant, or just be someone that I can spend time with, quality time, but not necessarily romantically.
And I think people have to understand that everybody you meet is not your spouse. I see, and I can only speak for women because I have women friends and I am a woman. So when we meet someone, that doesn't necessarily mean that they go in that category of romantic partner. Just because I don't care if he said, hey, I don't care if he pumped your gas. That does not mean that that's your husband. I don't care if he bought you a meal. No.
Chivalry is dead. Or at least that's what, you know, you like to say that.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And then it makes me also think about that whole idea of self-sabotage. And what's rooted in self-sabotage. You know, even if we're interacting with this person and it's going well, because of my belief system about myself, what I deserve, and things like that, you know, I can start to slowly, the mind is a powerful thing. So I can start to implant ideas in my own head, even if my behavior with this person doesn't necessarily change, but what I believe now is starting to change. So then I will slowly start to, you know, pull away.
Yeah.
You know, even if I'm still being respectful to them, even if I'm still spending time with them, you know, people tend to leave emotionally before they leave physically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, I've experienced that, and y'all definitely can ask this person this question on the following session because he will be here. Someone that I used to date who I now consider like, you know, my platonic soulmate or whatever. Like, that's exactly what happened in our relationship. You know, he had a certain thought process of what was actually happening, and it struck up that fear and that self-sabotage and the pulling away. Which in our situation with me having abandonment issues, it was not okay. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, there has, like you were saying, that communication could have deaded all of that.
Yeah.
You know, hey, I'm feeling like this. What's going on? What's your thoughts? What's this? What's that? And that just wasn't done.
Yeah. It does affect a lot of different areas, I think. And then, you know, how do you repair from there? Because if you leave something that was healthy or at least going in a healthy direction, what do? You know, how do you come back from that?
From my experience, they've tried to come back. And I'm like, no, I'm done.
Yeah. And you have autonomy over yourself.
Yes.
Some people don't think you do, but you have autonomy and you can say no.
Yeah. And the thing about it is some people, sometimes when you move on too soon, it allows the people that, you know, I guess parted ways to continue to feel like there's something that was unfinished in that prior relationship. So it causes them to come back together, which then makes them hurt the people that they're with.
So if I leave, so let me just kind of run with. So if I leave something that actually was in a healthy space, and then I try to come back, if that person is not in a space to receive me, then I end up making that once healthy thing unhealthy.
Especially if you have not worked on why you left in the first place. If you left because of fear or left because you weren't ready for a relationship, are you ready now? Are you still fearing now?
Yeah, and you can't just sweep stuff under the rug. You have to make what happened right. And by right, I mean adjusting the break, because that's a break in the relationship. And I don't mean like time-wise. I mean like energetically, spiritually, the continuity of the relationship has been broken, and it shifts into something else. And so if it is not handled correctly, there is no coming back, even if it's just friendship.
So that means that a conversation needs to be had. Like, this is not, that breakup can't be something that you just sweep under the rug and be like, yeah, we can just pick back up. No. There needs to be a conversation that was had, because now I don't trust you.
Okay. So leaving something that was good, do you think it has more emotional damage to the person that left or the person that was left?
I think typically was left, because a lot of times it's not handled well. But when it's handled well, I feel like it's pretty even. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I'm sad it's not going the way, you know, I want it to go, or resulting in what I wanted to result. And so we're both sad, versus like, what happened? Why are you leaving?
Yeah, because one person is typically the one that's left, is typically the one who's thinking everything was good. Like, what is going, you know, why are we breaking up? Everything is going I mean, not perfectly, but well.
I think the one who leaves has a lot of inner turmoil, but that is also of that person's own doing. And it's something that can be fixed fairly quickly if they do the work.
And I think typically if it's someone who is leaving a good relationship, they probably already have negative self-talk dialogue. So this is just one more thing to add to their negative self-talk that's going to beat them up.
Part of that self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I knew I wasn't, cut out for this or that kind of thing.
I knew this relationship.
Prophecy.
Yeah. I knew this relationship wasn't going to work. You made it not work.
Yeah. Okay.
You created the state for it to happen.
Yeah. Blinders are a very serious thing when it comes to, relationships. And what I mean by blinders is stuff like that. If I am actively doing, putting up a block on not seeing the truth that's happening between me and this person, you'll then go on and do stuff like this. You'll leave, you'll end up start pulling away, but it's because it's self-imposed stuff. And because it's self-imposed, I don't know, it seems like it's much more difficult to be honest with yourself that that's what you're doing, because it's such a deeply rooted kind of thing. I would almost venture to say likely a trauma response, but that's not a guarantee, but it seems like it has that kind of flair to it.
Yeah.
It almost makes me wonder, like, when you have that type of train of thought, are you thinking that or fearing that the relationship is not going to be successful because of you or the other person?
Both, probably.
Yeah. Because if it is a trauma response, or even maybe not even a trauma response, but maybe just historical experience from prior relationships, it didn't work out, so you just blamed yourself, So are you thinking that this person, you try to sabotage it because you think this person is going to leave you, or do you think that you're still not good enough to be in a relationship so that it won't be successful?
Yeah. I mean, that's why you got to do the work. I'm not a fan, and we've talked about this on a previous session, I'm not a fan of jumping into relationships before you heal yourself. And even if it was a good breakup, it wasn't like any problems, you still need to kind of work through, okay, who was I in this relationship? How did I show up? Did I like the person I was? Is there anything that I need to heal from that I did to myself or someone else did to me? Like, there's a process of becoming ready.
And that's what I would like for people to understand, regardless of why the relationship terminated or who terminated the relationship, regardless, your self-esteem is going to be affected. If it was a healthy breakup, if it was an unhealthy, your self-esteem is still going to be affected because this is something that didn't work out in your life.
I agree with that.
As you ladies were talking, another thing that I was kind of thinking about that can contribute to why a seemingly healthy relationship may end is family pressure. So just because you love someone and things are going well between you as the unit, that doesn't necessarily mean the people outside of the two of you, or however many of you there is, feel the same way.
Well, but I think what we have to understand is that our family will never think anyone is good enough, especially fathers. They never think that a man is good enough for their daughter.
A lot don't.
So if you, I don't know, use the family and friend expectations of a relationship, you will stay single.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think another thing that kind of plays into that is the family remembers differently than the couple remembers.
Yes.
So while you guys, again, even the most healthiest relationship, people are going to argue and fight and disagree. So it's not to say that just because you and this person are doing well that you don't have moments of strife.
Yeah.
But the family remembers the bad. So if you go and you vent to your family, talk to your friends or whatnot, what gets burned into their memory is the thing that you told them. Because they're not there to see the repair. They're not there to see all of the conversations and the tears and the healing that happens behind closed doors. So then they're left with this, skewed image of this person which over time, will start to affect what they think and what they feel and what they want for you in regards to whoever this person is.
That's true.
Which can lead, and that pressure can be a lot, especially if you are on the people pleaser side, and you don't want to upset your family, you don't want to upset your friends. So then you, again, will unintentionally start pulling away because you're trying to please the mass versus the individual.
And that's why it's good for you to have people, friends, family in certain categories of your life. You have some friends and family that you can just, be unapologetically you. You can share whatever you need to share because they're not going to be judgmental. And then you have some people that it's like, nah, I'll tell them about the argument we had about, what we're going to eat. But I won't tell them the argument we had about, like, he didn't want me to go out. I didn't want him to go out. I'm not going to, so you have to be careful with who you're sharing what with.
Yeah, I think what ends up happening is that people don't have a lot of understanding of like the dynamic of relationships within relationships. And so there's not proper boundaries put in place. You don't understand like how this relationship should work and then how this relationship should work. I was watching something, I can't remember what it was on, and someone was talking about the misunderstanding of what a romantic relationship should look like because you're basing it off of what your mama did for you. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't have intimate relationships with my mama, so
no, I'm good on that.
I that's not going to be a good representation. Yeah, are there qualities that you can pull from a parental relationship that you would also like to see in a romantic relationship? Yeah, but that shouldn't have so much bearing to where you now morphed your significant other into your parent, or vice versa, your parent in the middle of your relationship.
Absolutely.
And I think with all of that being said, I think people don't like to do the work. And so what we try to do is shape ourselves into our parents' relationship or parental, whatever, instead of us doing the work and getting to know our individual partner so that we can be what each other need for the other person. And that takes work. People prefer for things to be easy as opposed to it being a challenge.
Yeah. I don't know why we think that hard work is a problem. Like, whether it's easy or hard, do it.
You're working one way or the other.
Right.
It makes me think about that, what Trey had said, that life is simple but hard, and the easy stuff is complicated. But our brains are like defaulted to try to do easy. Like, I don't even know why it wants to take the quickest, simplest route possible. But in that, it makes stuff, like you said, complicated. It makes things not flow well, and it leads to all these problems that require so many extra steps, on the back end.
And the thing is, like, people don't realize, like, when you think about other things in your life, you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do that. Like, games are not won in the first quarter; they're won in the fourth. You win in the ninth inning. You don't like. Sometimes it's overtime. So at the end of the day, if you're not gonna put in the work, don't join the game.
And that's what I was just getting ready to say. People put work into what they want to put work into, but when it comes to relationships, we get real lazy because for a lot of people, when it comes to careers and success, look, we went and got 4 or 5 degrees to get to where we are now.
I'm trying to give 1 or 2 back and get a refund on the money.
That would be nice.
Okay. But
so nice.
But we had to work hard for this. And but yet and still other people will do the same thing, but then they don't want to work in relationships. And when I say relationships at this point, I'm talking about romantic and platonic.
Yeah. And sometimes when you work hard, you want to take a break. And so when you take a break, you might want to listen to some ads. So while we take a break, y'all go ahead and listen to these lovely ads.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, girl. What you been up to?
Nothing much, just working, trying some new things. I like to make them coins, honey.
Okay, ma'am. What are these new things?
Well, I am thinking about starting a podcast.
Seriously?
Yes.
Ooh. You know we have one, right?
I thought y'all did. Okay. So good. I'm talking to the right people. I've been doing some research and I've been trying to figure out a hosting site.
Okay.
Oh, you can use the one we use. We use Anchor.
Hold on, though. Hold on. You know, y'all balling.
Here she goes.
Y'all balling, so y'all can afford to do that. Is it free?
Yeah, girl, it's free. You know we're not out here trying to spend all that money. We keep our coins in the bank. Plus, it has a lot of great tools that help you to sound very professional.
Come on through, professional. Okay. So it got good tools and it's free. So where can I put it?
So you can find it pretty much everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. I mean, pretty much anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Yeah.
Okay. Because y'all know I'm an Apple girl.
Yes. Whatever. We do. But get this.
Okay.
You can also make some money with it too. And you don't even have to have a whole bunch of listeners either.
Wait a minute. Seriously?
Yeah, sponsorships.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So basically this thing is just like a big old one-stop shop.
Okay. So then I really just need to go ahead and download this free Anchor app.
Yeah, or you can just go to anchor.fm if you want to do it on your little laptop and you can just immediately get started.
Okay. Well, you know what? I knew I came to the right room. I knew it. Boss ladies.
We got your back.
You
we
lady.
got your back.
You welcome. So anyway, what you got going on this weekend?
Girl, I'm shopping. I be liking to make coins, but I like to spend them too.
Yes.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm just going to take a nap.
That sounds like you.
Well, I do be sleepy. Y'all don't like bed? So thank y'all for taking that brief break to hear our lovely ads. What are y'all's thoughts on being able to transition your love when you meet somebody? Because, you know, we've talked about there are different types of love, but a lot of times, sometimes when you're unready, it's because you can't actually move through all the phases of a deep, meaningful relationship.
That's good. I think that people have to come down from their fantasy of what love is. Because I think that people expect for, you know, when you first meet somebody, you're giddy and, you know, you got the butterflies, he on his way, girl, oh, I can't wait to see him. You know, you have all of that going on in the beginning. I would even say the first 3, maybe to 6 months of, you know, it being able to have that type of feeling. But then when things begin to transition, like life begins to set in, the representative leave. Then how do you transition into past that?
One of the struggles I hear in that is dealing with expectations. You know, we all walk into, regardless of whether it's romantic, familial, or platonic relationships, with an expectation of the people that we're dealing with. So I think one of the difficulties is transitioning into understanding, accepting, and walking through other people's expectations.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to do that because we don't typically know what the other person's expectations are. That going back to the communication.
We're not talking about it.
Yeah.
And we don't even know what our own expectations are.
Yes.
No, we just out here flying blind.
We definitely are. A lot of people do that. I talk about that all the time in a session. Like, well, what in the world do you know what you want?
Right.
Because you're reacting to your partner acting as if you know what you want. But then when I ask you about what it is, then it's, you know, blank face. So now you're getting upset with your partner. You are, you know, thinking about leaving this person possibly, or you think that the relationship is worse than what it is, but you're holding them to a standard that you don't even know yourself. So that, you know, what's going on between you guys may not be as bad as your brain is telling you it is, because you're walking blind. And then it becomes a blind leading the blind, you know, as, you know, the saying goes.
And if you're holding your partner accountable to some sort of expectation, I would suggest that you re-examine it. Re-examine that expectation to know if that's your expectation, or if it's based on, like Dr. Wall was saying earlier, the expectation of your mama, daddy, parents, you know, a relationship that you saw earlier in your life.
And also time, because what may have worked when you first started talking to this person may not work now that, you know, it's years later. Sometimes things need to shift and change, and we don't allow it because we're like, it has to be this way. It should be those masturbations that we told y'all about back in the day. It's just not okay. We have to be able to process, pivot, move on, and flow through, you know, the relationship.
I have to tell a lot of the wives of the couples that, because they hold themselves to a standard of a Proverbs 31 woman. And I'm like, first of all,
don't even get me started.
Please understand the timing of this Bible. They could go and do that type of thing because they didn't have to work outside of the home. I mean, yes, she went outside of the home, but like, we have different types of jobs now that requires us to do other things other than, or in addition to, not other than, but in addition to housework.
And we have rights now.
That is true too.
I mean, that's a big thing. I think people kind of forget, like, things have shifted and changed because people are attempting to think of other people as complete people instead of halves and 3/4 and quarters and things of that. Like, you got to think, back in the day, y'all, we couldn't vote as women. We couldn't really do nothing. We couldn't own land. We couldn't buy anything. We couldn't have a bank account. Like, there are certain things that have occurred that are going to change all of those expectations. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is that we have generational routines. And so because of those generational routines, we don't ever take a time to conceptualize anything else.
Yeah, you definitely have to examine yourself again. You have to examine yourself and see that comparison thing. That is one of the most unhealthy types of thinking you can try and live by.
I agree with that. But I did want, Dr. Strickland, did you want to do a little deep dive on the theory, just so that people can have their Psych 101 for today?
Yeah. Just kind of piggybacking on what both Dr. Wall and Dr. Jones-Hines were saying about, how do you get to a deeper level of love? So there is a theorist out there named Robert Sternberg, and he came up with this theory called the triangular love theory. Now, we're not going to go all the way into it, so we're getting like super basic with it. But the big concept is that you transition through basically 3 phases of love with a person. And it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, the 4th level is the actualization. That's where you're really trying to get to. But the first stage is liking or intimacy. So this is where, you're getting to know the person. We're finding all of the stuff that we like about them, what we don't like, what we appreciate. It's the getting to know you piece of the relationship. It's the fun. It's the high, what everybody wants to keep going. And then you transition over into passion. So this is now we ready to get down and dirty and do some things.
Naughty Rose.
Okay, I like you, you like me. All right.
We already got that established, so let's do this thing.
This is where you become, fanatical about the person. This is the butterfly stage. This is when you are really deep in the heart and the pitter patters and all that stuff. That's passion. And you start to, visualize future. Everything is very intense in this stage. Passion, fire, all that. And then you transition over into commitment. And commitment is, basically we've decided to be together. And this is now we have been together over a period of time. And, you and this person are doing the dance of life together. And this is where kind of all the stuff we've been talking about, communication, decision making, goal setting, all that kind of stuff. This is where that starts to take place. Mm-hmm. And then the fourth level would be what's called consummate love. And that's when all three of those things come together. So I like you, I want you, and I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's really what you're going for, because you want to have some mix of all three of those.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, he has intersections between all of those because those are different types of love. But, I think that's beyond kind of what we're talking about today. Mm-hmm. But the four kind of main structures of how you get to deeper love is you got to like, you got to want, you got to love, and commit.
Yeah, that want is a very important piece, because that want is where the fear can come in.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I may want to be in love, but I'm scared because I don't know if it's going to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What?
I was just thinking.
Oh. Yeah. And, I think this all goes kind of back, full circle with what we're talking about. If I had to boil it all back down to, what makes it healthy is that communication piece.
Yeah.
If that would be the original umbrella, at least for in my head, let me say that, because that's how you have all of these. I have to tell you that I like you. I have to, when I'll say communication and behavior, I have to tell you that I like you. Because even if my behavior says something, you still want to have that combination of I want to hear it and I want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do that, if I tell you I like you, if I show you that I like you, I'm being, what's the word I'm looking for?
Vulnerable,
open. Yes, those are words. Yes, all of that. Consistent. That's the word I was looking for. Okay. If I'm being consistent. So if I say, we're going to go out this Thursday, we actually go out this Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If I say, I want us to move in together, we actually start making the steps and the plans to move in together.
Come on, integrity.
Yes, integrity, that my words and my behavior match each other. So in the liking phase, that helps that health start. That's the foundational stuff that when we start moving on over into passion. Mm-hmm. So I've internally transitioned to I can be passionate with you because you've shown integrity, commitment, vulnerability at the liking stage. Yeah. It makes it much easier for us to transition to that passion stage.
Yeah, and actually you can transition into that passion stage without even realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have all of those things, that integrity and vulnerability and all those things, if you have those things, behaviors or everything.
I still think it's communication, because part of communication is behavioral.
Yeah, that's true. So even when you have those things, you can easily kind of just slide on into that second stage, Yeah.
And then the third one becomes much easier if you are being, again, consistent with what y'all are doing at those other two stages.
And honest, instead of it just being lip service. Like you have to be honest with yourself if this is really where you want to be in your life.
Absolutely. So, I think with all of that, it helps that consummate love become much more readily available and easy to just kind of be in if you are actually, like we've said several times in this session, doing the work necessary for that health in that relationship to be there.
But as an individual, I think we said this earlier, but as an individual, it's important for you to work on yourself individually. Mm-hmm. Now, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be completely whole or, things of that nature. But the deeper things that you need to work on, that stuff need to be worked on so that you're not fearing going through those stages.
Mm-hmm. And that struggle in a relationship doesn't equal bad. No. It doesn't equal leave. Now, there's a big old star beside that, a big footnote with that.
Yeah, we're not talking about struggle love.
Yeah, we are not talking about struggle love at all. But every relationship, regardless of what level of relationship it is, whether it's romantic, family, friends, coworkers, will have some version of struggle and some version of difficulty in it. It's not going to 100% of the time you're going to get along, you're going to agree, everything's going to run smoothly, because you're talking about two people with two different personalities, two sets of wants, two sets of needs, two sets of expectations, two sets of fears, or multiple sets, depending on how many different people you're dealing with. So, understanding that just because you have a disagreement with somebody, that doesn't mean that your relationship is unhealthy.
Because y'all should disagree at times, because you're two different individuals.
Mm-hmm. Don't nobody think like you. Similarities, but everybody has their own mind. They think about things differently. It's important to realize that, hey, I can give this person some freedom to be themselves, and then they can give me freedom to be myself. Because if not, you end up forming a very rigid relationship.
And codependent.
And then it's just, I think I've said this before, like in relationships, you should have a freedom that you feel in it. You shouldn't be so like bound that you can't do anything or they can't do anything. And if you are feeling that way, that's probably an indication that you may be with the wrong person, or you need to discuss some things.
Yeah, that's true. When should a person end a relationship? How do you know it's not too soon?
Or that you're ending something that probably was good for you?
I think you have to kind of identify what it is you want, like we talked about earlier, and kind of have that vision in your mind throughout your relationships, so that you can identify, is this headed in the right direction? Is this the type of person I want to be with? And then also an awareness of, does that need to be adjusted, or do I need to adjust, this relationship?
I would agree with that. The other thing I was thinking is, if it's not necessarily serving what you intended before, very similar to what Dr. Wall said. I don't know if there's anything that you could really add on that, but if you are paying attention to you, it'll be much easier for you to make that decision versus solely paying attention to your partner. If you're in your vision and you're only looking at them, then you will miss yourself in this whole process. And then you will make decisions and do things that ultimately will lead you to being unhappy, because you're not balancing out the, what they want and what you want.
And then I would add, are you all making space for each other? Like, do you all make each other a priority in your life? I think that if you're not even willing to make this person a priority in your life, then you probably do need to go, because they're not important. You're not making space for them, and you don't see them as important people in your life.
Yeah. And I was also, just while you were talking, thinking about this. I know it's not a great source, but this Reddit video that I was listening to at one point. And one of the stories in that video was talking about a guy who, and it was very similar to what we're talking about. The relationship was fine. He was like, we loved each other. There wasn't anything that was really going on in the relationship. But his partner did suffer from episodes of depression. And he said I won't say he had to leave her, but he said he left her because he believed he was holding her back and keeping her from focusing on her depression. But he was like, our families loved each other. We loved each other. We had all of these plans, all of these things that we wanted to do. But because she was suffering from, a mental health issue, that he believed he was compounding that by taking her focus away from dealing with it.
Wow.
I mean, that's a very selfless individual. And I mean, he did the right thing. It don't mean it feel good. And she probably don't feel good. It probably made her have a little bit more depression. But I think it is a very legit way to look at how you should show up in relationships. Mental health is very important. And, sometimes you need somebody to talk to. And because of that, you may want to hit up Balance Beacons ad, that's coming up right now. See y'all in a minute.
it's so much going on in the world right now, and we could all use some extra support. At Balance Beacon, we offer counseling services for individuals, couples, families, and groups. If you're in Texas, give us a call at 214-396-6503 or visit our website at www.balancebeacon.com for more information.
Ladies, are you looking for a new way to get your body right and your body tight? Well, let me give you the scoop on She. She Dance Studios is a women's only sensual fitness program geared towards unleashing that inner goddess. We're currently offering classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. inside Active Family Wellness located at 4120 North Collins Street, Suite 200, Arlington, Texas 76005. For more information, DM us on Instagram or Facebook at She Dance Studios.
Well, we hope you guys enjoyed that little ad there. Got to put the plug in. So one of the things that I was kind of thinking about is, so the person that is left by somebody when this relationship actually was, for all intents and purposes, pretty healthy. So then how does this person get through this? I was with somebody, I thought it was going good, we was together, and then all of a sudden now I'm single. Now what do I do with all of this?
I would definitely start understanding that it's not completely your fault. I think when a relationship ends, I think both people have a percentage of why it ended. But so don't take on the ownership of the relationship ending as solely your fault.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And deal with what part was yours so that you can grow from it.
Yeah. I think it's important to realize that it's okay to feel whatever you are feeling and give yourself a moment to feel, catch your breath, grieve the relationship, because that's exactly what it is. It's a grieving process, a mourning, and then kind of determine what needs to go on. Sometimes, you may need to get some clarity, not closure, because that's a lie. Some clarity, and you don't necessarily always need to get that from the person, but you may need to seek that out for yourself, or you may need to kind of identify, like, why am I taking it so intensely, or maybe why I'm not taking it so intensely.
Because one of the things that I was thinking about when we're talking about kind of self-assessing the person that was left was, did you live in a fantasy? In your mind, it was good. In your mind, things were fine and perfect. But in reality, again, we talk about putting blinders up. In reality, it really wasn't. So, self-assessing to make sure that you were not in a dream world and that your belief in this relationship actually was false.
And then try not to hold on to bitterness, because that bitterness will end up landing you in the same type of relationship or self-sabotaging in another relationship.
I think also for the person that is left, it's important to develop better communication skills in the process of a relationship. So when you feel something change, are you communicating, hey, I've noticed a change in our relationship. Is there something going on, or did you feel it as well? Like, inquire, ask these things, because it'll also keep you guys on the same page. And if it is another situation that comes up where you are ending up separating from somebody, then it's cool. Because the reality is, unless you are polyamorous, you're going to continue to date people and then break up with people until you find the person you want to spend your life with, whether it's marriage or, domestic partnership or whatever the situation is. So I think there has to be some reality that you're not the people, more than likely the people that you date are not going to be the people that you stay with.
And pay attention to your gut feeling, because
Mm-hmm.
all of what Dr. Wall just explained is a part of you feeling something is not right,
Mm-hmm.
but you're too afraid to talk about it and address it because of whatever reason. And then sometimes you will address it, and then just because the person gave you an answer, it doesn't mean that that gut feeling goes away. So that may mean that you have to address it in a different way so that you can get the truth of the shift that you're feeling.
Yeah. And that it's all, at the end of the day, you will be okay. It's going to take some work to get there.
Yeah.
But you will be okay. You know, that a relationship, for whatever reason it ended, it does not have to be the end all be all of you.
No, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can just be a part of life, a part of your history, instead of it being like, oh my God, who am I? What's going to happen? Now, there are going to be relationships like that do break you down like that, but we're not talking about those. We're talking about the ones that, for the most part, were very healthy, and they just didn't end in the results that you wanted. With that, you know, what are some examples of that in y'all's lives? Like, when has those types of relationships occurred to you, or when have you been the person that has left?
That's a good question.
That is. So I would have to say, for me, y'all know what type of dudes I used to date. So I was typically the one to leave but it was because he did something,
Okay.
you know, that I needed to leave for. And now, granted, they would more than likely try and come back, but at that point I was like, yeah, no, I can't. I mean, I'm not going through this again, because that's just too much. Now I would say there have been relationships I didn't move into, like I didn't move from platonic to romantic. Now, though, I think those were ones that hurt me a little bit more, only because, like, the guy was cool. Like, he was cool with people. He could have been a good romantic partner, but it was just not he was just not for me. And
it's because he wasn't Rod.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it was like, they would just, I felt bad because I was hurting them. But I'm like, you know, you're my homeboy though. Like, just be my homeboy.
Yeah. I would say that mine has been more along the lines of friendships versus romantic.
Okay.
And not because, and this is a lack of communication even on my part, that they just fizzled away. Dang it. I'm sorry, guys. Like, they fizzled out. Because there's, you know, even though there wasn't something that happened in this relationship that caused it to end, it just was a slow withdrawal over time and a lack of reinvesting in that relationship.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no identifiable fight or disagreement or, you know, it's just something about, you know, me and this other individual just kind of over time, just slowly, you know, further and further and further apart.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate. I kind of already told you guys mine. Being in a very healthy relationship, good communication, same interests, very, meshed well, very well. And then all of a sudden there was just a different shift or change in him. And, me, I'm going to ask, hey, what's going on? Is something happening? Blah, blah, blah. And it was very like surface level answers, like, yeah, I'm good. There's nothing going on. No problem. Blah, blah, blah. Till the point of there was no communication. Like, I would send a message or call, no pickup, no response. And so when I'm done, I'm very diligent at what I need to do in order to get out of the relationship. I'm very exit strategy oriented. So at probably the end of that week, I was like, hey, something is going on and you're not communicating effectively with me, and I'm not okay with that. So I'm going to give you until the end of next week to respond and let me know what's happening, or we'll just go ahead and end the relationship. The week went, no response. I sent him another text message and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and end the relationship. You know, you haven't responded, so obviously this is what you want. You forced the relationship to end. And so with that happening, I was heartbroken because, you know, this person really was somebody that I was super close to before we started dating. Like we were friends for like years before we decided to start dating. I was like, why would he do me like this? You know what I mean? So you know, what we were talking about, going through that whole thing, like of owning what you did or did not do. Obviously there was some type of communication breakdown. And so you go through that, and then it was probably like a year or two before we had the conversation we needed to have, and now we're fine as friends, you know.
Dang. Whew. That's tough.
It is, because, you know,
Super
your little heart be like, oh.
See,
Yeah,
there goes that umbrella.
Yeah, see, that's why I say mine was more of like the dudes that I didn't make more of my romantic partner, because the ones that I broke up with, they needed to be broke up with.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just taking a very passive way of dealing with a situation. So in that case, I would have been the him.
You left.
Yeah, I'm the lefter.
The lever. We gonna get
lever.
it together, y'all.
Thank you. Because they like, what is going on with y'all today? Y'all
goofy.
taking
It's
slow-mo
okay.
today? Like, what's going on?
Y'all, this is why we don't record on this day. We be too laid back. That's the problem.
But yes, I was the lever in the situation and took a very passive way out of that, versus being proactive in saying, okay, so like something, you know, something's different about us. I don't know what it is, and I can't identify where and why that's happened.
Yeah.
But, you know, now it's been years, so
It is what it is.
yeah, it is what it is at this point. Radical acceptance.
Yes.
Okay.
Hallelujah. And non-attachment.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you guys know we normally end this thing off with a quote, and today's is brought to you by Sylvia Plath from the Unabridged Journals of Sylvia Plath, and it goes, "And the danger is that in this move toward new horizons and far directions, that I may lose what I have now and not find anything except loneliness."
Must be his volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at the RePsychled Podcast.
If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.